Welcome to the Our Labs podcast. Our special guest today, all the way from France, right? France, Donia C. Now, Donia, we tried before we started for me to say your last name, and I just didn't want to do it. I couldn't do it justice. So, Donia, tell everybody your last name for me, please.
Sure. My last name is Chaiehloudj, which actually is Arabic and it means someone who is not shame.
Oh, nice. It even has like a name. You know, when you look up the last name Kennedy and you're like, what does Kennedy mean? They show you a one of those shields, right? Those family shields with three heads on it, like knight heads on
Mm,
it, but
yeah.
it means helmet head. And I'm just like, I don't want to tell anybody my name means helmet head. Like that's not cool. But you got the cool last name, so and you can say it, which is pretty good because I can't. I try. All right, everybody, stop laughing at me. Okay, it's my tongue doesn't do certain. So same thing with Spanish. There are certain words that I just can't say. It just is what it is.
That's
I have to
okay.
live with this. Okay, so we've got Donia here. I'm really excited. I think we met for the first time maybe like 2 years ago. That time is
Yeah,
flying by. Yeah,
definitely.
you were giving a cool talk about hens and Go and some cool hardware stuff you were doing, and we're gonna eventually get to that. But before we do anything else, give everybody the sort of 2 minutes on what you're sort of doing today, what you've been doing in terms of tech.
So currently I'm a software engineer at Isovalent by Cisco. We've been acquired a few months ago now, so I'm part of Cisco now. It has been 1 year and a half with a maternity leave in the middle, but I'm currently developing software for the agent on Cilium product, which is CNI for Kubernetes, and yeah, mainly working on the OSS and also enterprise features. So that's it.
Wow, Cisco. I That's a good gig. I've met a few people now that got acquired sort of into now. It's a good gig if you want like really strong stability and job security and all that. But I've seen recently, and this is like the same with VMware, right? Everybody kind of their little companies getting bought. Um, but lately, I also feel like it used to be like if you ended up in one of these companies, your life got really boring really, really quickly. But I don't think that's the case anymore. Like, do you feel bored over there at Cisco?
I would say it has been a few months now, and honestly, we're kind of in a bubble for the moment. Like, we're still isovalent, we still have our branding. Everything is just like as before, as in software engineer for the moment. Maybe for sales and marketing, it's a bit different. I don't know, honestly, but as a software engineer for the moment, it's the same.
Yeah, it's
And
one
we
of these
have
things
a
that you
lot of
always.
perks. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's a big stable company, so all those benefits and those perks are really big. But yeah, everything moves slow, but that sometimes works to your advantage, right? Cuz even at Ardan like we're doing consulting, right? And maybe we get a client as big as Cisco that comes to us and it takes forever to sort of close things. So, but at the same time, it takes forever to unclose things. So, you know, if you get in, you
Yeah,
got in. You know, like it takes forever, but it also takes forever to get out. So, I guess that's like a
yeah,
benefit.
definitely.
Okay, sweet. So you only been there, but that's cool. I think that's good, and obviously it's remote because Cisco is. How remote is your? Well, it's the same team you've been working on, just sort of shifting now into.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. We are worldwide. So yeah, it's very distributed around the world. We have a lot of engineers in Zurich because Isovalent was founded by uh, Swiss, Switzerland, Swiss, Thomas Graf and Dan Van Wald, who is in America, so in the US. So we have people also a lot in the US, but yeah, we have people in Australia and Japan, like in France, a lot of countries.
and the
I think
and the
53.
tech you're working on. Uh, uh, wow, yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. But not just on your team, just in
Yeah, no,
you're not working on
like
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Isovalent.
yeah, 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 yeah.
My team, we
Okay.
are 5
So
people.
pretty like I've been working on teams lately where I've got somebody in Bali, US,
Mm,
Brazil. Like we're scattered. I've learned how to do that. But you need the people that are farthest as a team lead. The people that are farthest away from you have to be the more senior people because you really
mm,
have to sort of trust that when you're sleeping, they're working, and then when you wake up, you're gonna have sort of what you need. At least that's been my
yeah.
experience so far. I don't know if I'd put a
Mhm.
junior in Bali like 12 hours away from me.
Yeah, no. Actually, I'm the most junior in my team, and I'm happy to have senior people who are in the same time zone, which I can count on, honestly.
And then you're working on CLI tools. So is that all Go or are you working with other languages, tech
I'm
stacks?
working only in Go. There is some C because there are some parts that are actually in eBPF, so very low level in the Linux stack.
Mm.
But I'm not working on that, and I'm not planning to for the moment at least. So I'm doing mostly Go.
Is that the company that Rice, oh, I can't remember Rice's first name.
Yeah,
Rice was working
Liz.
at?
Yeah,
Oh, Liz. That was the company Liz was working at. It just when you said eBPF, it just all clicked in my head where you're working. Oh
yeah.
my God. Okay. So they just got like 3 months acquired by yeah, they were always I don't know. Every time Liz got on stage, she's always talking about like the next gen, whatever it is. She started talking about that eBPF stuff before maybe it was the first time I even heard about it. Was from sort of
Mm-hmm.
Liz. She's always in the what do you call that? The forefront on the bleeding edge of tech. So okay, all right. Oh, really cool. Okay, now that I just thought that my brain just got like scrambled eggs, so I got to come back here. All right, we're going
That's
to.
okay.
I got to throw you into the time machine here. So
Yeah,
I ask you a couple questions, and then we're gonna get sort of going here. So maybe I'll start with yeah. Let me start to here first. So, what year did you graduate high school?
it was
What year did you graduate high
in
school?
it was in
Hmm
2011.
2011. Okay, so I got a general
Yeah,
sense of you're like 18. You do like 13 years of grade school or something in France,
yeah,
right? Well,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So that makes you like 18 in 2011. So that's
Yeah.
pretty good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I don't know the whole thing now with Liz in my head has got me scrambled here because I didn't. I just made the connection. Okay. Here's the next part. Okay. Clear your mind. Clear your mind. Clear your mind. Clear your mind. Here we go. Your mind. Okay. Now it looks clear. I see. I get to see Donia. So if you're only just listening, right? You got to jump on that YouTube so you can see us. Okay. Clear your mind. Here we go. First thought pops in your head with you working on a computer. That first time that you got your hands on a keyboard. I don't care what it was that you were doing, just your earliest memory.
Mm, I think I was probably 8 years old, something like that. Or, yeah, between 8 and 9 years old. And my parents bought a computer, uh, like a big machine on a big desk. And I was probably discovering the Minekeeper. Is it the name in English for the game?
Could be. I don't know. I didn't play
Uh,
games when I was. Plus, remember, I graduated high school in
Minesweeper.
1987.
The
Minesweeper. Oh, the
Minesweeper.
Minesweeper
Yeah,
game on Windows. I
yeah,
liked that
yeah,
game actually. That was a good
yeah,
game.
yeah,
Ray, you were playing that
uh,
game. Okay. I
yeah,
missed that
yeah.
game. I want to play that game now after we're done. I bet you can find it.
Probably.
Minesweeper. Oh. Now, do you remember at all why they bought the computer? Or it just magically showed up and you didn't even question it?
Yeah, no, I think it was like the moment where people could afford a computer at home, I think, because it was kind of expensive. It was an investment, but at the same time, like it was something that I could afford. So I think it was this time, and my dad was actually pretty into it. Not really my mom. And we had a neighbor living not far away. He was like so into computers. He was kind of old at the time for me as a child, I guess, but he was really
Yeah, he
into
was
it and
old.
giving.
He was like 28 old, right? Yeah.
No, probably no. He was a grandpa, so I guess he was around like between 55, something
Yeah,
like that.
throw it out there. Throw it out there, Donia. My age. Yeah, he's a grandpa. He's 55.
Exactly.
I'm not a grandpa yet, by the way. So
But I was a
I was
child.
leading you to that. I was leading you to throwing me under the bus. It's okay. Go. Uh, is this a small town you live in France, or you living in a bigger city at the time?
No, it was kind of a small city. It was like 50, yeah, 50,000 people.
Okay.
So not a lot.
Yeah, but not
And yeah,
terribly small.
no,
50,000
no,
is,
no,
I mean, not
it's
like
decent.
population. Yeah, not population 5,000 where everybody knows each other.
Exactly.
All right, so grandpa next door likes
Yeah,
computers in this has to be about
yeah,
2001 when you're 8 years
hmm,
old. And
yeah,
grandpa's showing you a little bit how to use the computer as well, or at least your father,
yeah,
family.
yeah, yeah, yeah. To my father, and I remember in the bedroom, I was next to them and just looking what they were doing, and he was like burning CDs with movies that were cracked and like songs and yeah, illegal stuff at the time,
Right.
but it was not the
Yeah,
same, you know.
you should have been flying a pirate flag outside the house, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I remember that he was saying to my dad, "You should buy actually CD-ROM with the R and the W if you want to burn them." And I was like, "Oh, but why are these letters?" And it came so many years after that I get like it was written right, you know. So that's funny. Anyway,
Wow, do you remember that moment? I those moments are weird for me where you grew up your whole life with some word or some notion in your head, and then suddenly a light bulb goes on, like what that actually meant, right?
yeah.
Um, it's just like wild when that sort of happens, and it still happens to me as in grandpa age. It still happens to me every once in a while. Where you're like, wow, why didn't I make that connection with that word or something?
Hmm.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
And you didn't have any siblings, so you didn't have to fight over this computer beyond did
No.
your father just let you use it, or you needed permission since he was
Um
kinda into it?
I think I needed permission at the time. Yeah. It was not
Yeah,
like
I would
totally
imagine.
free. And yeah, until I was like a teenager and I was more free. But yeah. And I had
But
like
from your per
other games. Yeah.
but from your perspective, the computer was there for your father, and you got to occasionally play, games on it, and that was kind
Yeah.
of the scope of it.
And yeah, listen to music. And we got a printer at a time, I remember, and there was a software coming with the printer, and you could actually customize calendars and stuff like that. I was just being creative on the computer with that.
Nice.
And
Did you
it's
ever use any of the paint programs and things like that too?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so
definitely.
you start to you get into high school, and what are the sort of things you're super interested in when you're in high school? What's eating up your
Um,
time?
so I was playing the piano for some years now, and learning some theory at the same time. It
Can you
was
still play the
I,
piano? If I threw you in
actually
front of a piano?
I was not really good. Like I was doing it because I was kind of pushed to do it, but I was not passionate and I was not good. But 2 years ago, I started a new instrument. I'm playing the clarinet now,
Whoa, whoa,
and
whoa, whoa.
yeah,
Completely
and I'm
different instrument.
actually my best friend. So we know each other since we were 4 years old. She was playing the clarinet and I was playing the piano, and she has now a piano and she lent me her clarinet. So kind of a fun story. We just changed at the adult age, realizing that we didn't fit so much our instrument at the time. But yeah,
But
so
she's
interesting.
very good at the clarinet, I would imagine, because she kept with it. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
How's that going? My father was a sax player, so he played anything with a
Mm.
reed, clarinet,
Oh yeah,
even the flute. I grew up listening to all that, so you can have
that's
a lot
very
of
cool.
fun with the clarinet. But now you gotta
Yeah.
switch to the sax, 'cause the sax, it's a little more meaty, you can do a little bit more. So once you learn your clarinet, then you can switch over to your sax. It's a lot of the
I
same
will.
fingering, I think.
Yeah, but the sound I think is not requiring the same um, air quantity of air. You have to push much more in a sax, I think, than a clarinet.
Oh, you just
But
get a
anyway,
small one. You get the small one,
yeah,
that
but
little
like,
alto one.
but
I
I
see
think
what you're
that the
saying.
diameter is not the same. So
Mm,
anyway,
a little more work.
so I was doing the piano when I was in high school, music. But I think that mainly I was going to the library, a media library, like twice, I think, a week, and borrowing books, reading a lot, um, and listening a lot of music. I was going to concerts, so I was actually passionate about like music, but not so much playing it at the time. But yeah, I was going there a lot and reading. I think literature was something that actually interested me a lot at the time.
Was it a lot of fiction or nonfiction that you were
Mm,
reading?
yeah, both of them, I would say.
And then subject wise, what do you feel like you were most interested in? Was it more of the arts, the maths, the sciences?
I think today with my adult eye, I would say that I'm the kind of loving a lot of different things, but not especially good in one thing, you know? And I think that at the time I was loving a lot French literature and I was having very good marks at it, but at the same time was very interesting by science in general, but not so good at it. Um, and I didn't have like a strong passion for only one thing.
So
And
then
I think
as
it's still
you're
the same today.
so then as you're finishing high school, right? You got to make that decision in what direction you're going to go in. You
Yeah.
got to start taking those exams. You got to start figuring out
Yeah.
what you're going to do. Um, where is sort of life leading you at
Hmm.
that point as you're finishing high school?
So one thing that I didn't mention, I wasn't not so passionate about one thing, but I was in science section, I would say, during my last 2 years of high school. So I was going to do something scientific. I didn't know a lot about engineer job, but I felt like it could be interesting because you can do a lot of things, and it was really open. Even the field engineer, you can do a lot of things. And where my mom was actually working, um, two of the boys there were engineers, and they did engineer school. So she was like, I know what challenges you are gonna face, but I think it's gonna be a good path for you. So I was definitely trusting my mom, and so I went to an engineering school where the two first years were I was doing actually physical and chemistry, but there was also electronic and math. So it was still very open because I could take any direction at a time.
Was that
So
school
yeah,
close to home, or you were moving out of the house to go to that university too?
yeah, I moved out to a city called Grenoble, which is like 4 hours drive. So I was coming for the weekend sometimes and the holidays.
That's good though. I love that. I pushed all my kids sort of out of the house to go to school. 3 to 4 hours away is a perfect distance too. It's close enough to get to you, but far enough to where it's an real inconvenience to just show
Hmm.
up, right? You're kind
Yeah,
of protected
uh,
there.
that's true.
um, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was the first time sort of now when you went to school, were there dorms or you had to find flatmates and you have to pay for the housing or that's covered too by the government?
No, I had to pay for the housing. Uh, I had some a little help, I think, from the government, but it was not a lot. And my parents were paying for that. And I had a studio actually where I was living. Um,
By yourself?
and yeah, by myself.
Oh, nice.
For yeah, actually, it's more common in France, I think, than having like a flatmate, especially for the first year, because
Do you
you
remember
don't
that
know
first
people.
night? You remember that first
Yeah,
night you just kinda were on your own by yourself, like, "I'm an adult," like, you have that "I'm an adult now" sort of thought or something? Freedom. Braveheart
yeah.
screaming freedom.
Yes and no. Actually, I remember being kind of afraid of this new life and calling my mom, like almost crying, like, this is it. Here I am. But it was only the first night. Then it was
Yeah,
freedom.
then it was freedom. Are daughters are very close to their mother, at least in my experience with Italians and, now Ali, like, Colombians at least. They almost
Hmm.
talk every day, like, every single day, like, right? They'll talk to their moms or something. And I find that super interesting because I might talk to my mom 3 times a year or something. And it's not because I don't love her or I'm not the kind of person to just call and just talk. I don't want to use the word nonsense, but just I don't know. It's not my sort of thing. And if I call my mom, it's because I have a question or
Hmm.
there's a need, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I totally believe. I'm sure like is you still talk to your mom
Yeah. Every
like
day.
that almost
Yeah.
every yeah. It's just I think it's a nice thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a nice thing. I don't know. It's super
Mhm.
interesting. So I can imagine you laying there both like riddled with this idea of freedom, but at the same time I need my mom.
Yeah, definitely. But it was a new chapter of my life, definitely.
And then you were close to campus at that point. You could walk or you had
No, I was taking the tramway, and it was like 30 minutes. Sorry, 30 minutes, and the city is very flat, so everyone is biking. So a few months after, I just got a bike and was going by bike most of the time. Only when it was like rainy or weather was bad, I
did
was
you have to get
taking
a
the tram.
job? I mean, you have to eat. You're not living on like in the US, you spend your first year in a dorm, there's food for the right campus. There's food there. Like you buy a
Mm.
meal plan. You don't think
Hmm.
about for the most part, you don't need to think about money as a freshman, let's say in university. But you're living off campus. You got off campus housing. I mean, do you have a job?
Yeah. No, my mom worked a lot, really a
Okay.
lot, for me, paying all my studies and all my activities. She's the worker. She's the good one, like doing everything she could do, so she can be proud of her daughter, I would say.
So I feel like that's going to carry on with you now that you're a brand new mom,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful girl, right? I got to beautiful girl. Like, are you starting now to think all the things that your mom did for you? They start kind of rushing back into your brain
Yeah.
a little bit now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I don't know, but I think you cannot realize that until you have a kid, honestly, because I remember after my daughter was born, the day after, I sent a message to my mom saying, "You're such a warrior. You did so much for me," like realizing at that point, having this kid in my arm. Like, so yeah,
Uh,
definitely realizing
well,
that.
I think there's 2 phases of that. I think and I can only speak from experience here in the US, even with my kids. I think when you finally graduate university and you're really starting to truly be on your own, like very independent, you have that first moment of how did my parents do this? Or now you start to think back. And then when you have a kid, it just takes that
Hmm.
to the sort of next
Next
level,
level.
right? And then you start to realize that even though it always appeared that your parents had all the answers and you don't, that they really didn't either at some
Yeah.
point. Though it's still hard for you to believe they didn't have answers because they always give you an answer, right? And
Hmm.
your kid's going to be the same way, and it's
Yeah.
super interesting. Yeah.
You kind of realize at some point that your parents are just humans, and like they have their failures. They are like they have their good and the bad days also, and it's just like it took me some years, like even adult, to realize that like it's maybe like 4 years ago, and I'm 30 now, that I've really understood that. So yeah.
Yeah, it happens. But the same thing, your daughter's going to look at you the same way you've been looking at your parents. So I laugh when it happens. Like even my oldest kid is 28, and they're just like, "Dad, how do you know all this stuff?" And I just laugh in the back of my head. I'm like, "I don't know anything. I'm just hacking right now, but it looks good, doesn't it?" It looks good. I've learned
Acting.
how to fake it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I want to get back. So you're in university. You're on your own for the first time. You got your flat. Your life is good. You're taking these sort of science classes. Um, are you enjoying these classes? Is you start to realize that this was the right direction, or you start to maybe pull away and you're like, no, I want to get back into literature or
Mm,
something like that.
Actually, I was so when I finished high school, I was enjoying much more chemistry. And when I starting at university, I started hating it, honestly. Like I found the theory so boring, and I was like, I cannot do that. Like but physics was okay. And what happened is that we had to do an internship the first year, at the end of the first year. It was like 1 month of just observation in a company. And um, I had the chance to be in a huge company. So it was actually petrochemistry. So not very ecological today, but it was interesting because they were doing the maintenance of the tooling that were doing all the stuff to go in the inside the earth to check if there's any petrol, so any gas. And I was um, very interested at this point by electronical stuff. I was like troubleshooting with the engineers, with the machine, doing all the procedures to verify that everything was still okay, to just the tools can go back to work. And I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna go into electronic. So this is something that I really enjoy, because there it was like physical, so I could see it at the same time, and doing also software. So that's what I enjoyed about it. So that was at the end of my first year, but I still had to do chemistry the second year. So that was not
I,
so good.
I the one thing that's on my, I call it my bucket list at some level. And I got on a project one time for this, and then the company didn't raise enough money and it all went away. But um as software developers, everything we do is virtual, right? Like it feels
Mhm.
virtual because it all runs on this same sort of box that you didn't
Yeah,
create. Or um I I walk around like, here they call, they have Walmart here, but it's, these big stores, right? And I
yeah.
see products all over the shelf, and I'm like, I want a product on a shelf one day. I want to walk by the shelf and say, that's that physical product. Like I invented that, I created that. And so I feel what you're saying, because it's one thing to write software and it's virtual and nobody can see it, nobody can appreciate it, but to have that physical thing in your hand that actually does something is a whole nother, for me at least, it's a whole nother, and I've never been able to really work on that. So um
Hmm.
yeah, no, I totally
That's
get it. I totally get it. You have those same feelings, right?
yeah. Totally. It's okay. I don't want to build something that would be in a shelf to one day. Definitely not my goal. But I was like, it makes sense because we are using so many electronical stuff in our day-to-day life. So I could contribute to something that makes sense in the world at some point. So yeah.
For me, it was the book. Like after I wrote the first book, and you wrote a book now too, which is cool, right? So after I wrote the book and I was traveling, at least domestically in the US, I would find a bookstore and see if I could find the book on the shelf, because that for me was my physical product. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like I this is going to be physically there. And long story short, I only ever found it in one bookstore in Arizona. And then longer story short, I went back a year and it was the same damn book on the shelf. So there you go. You know how come I know it
Yeah.
was the same book? Now I know it was the same book. When I first
Did
saw the
you
book first time, go on.
did you sign it?
No, I was going to that day, but I didn't want to deface it because technically I didn't own that book, right? So I took a
Oh
business
yeah, true.
card. I took a business
Oh.
card and I slipped it in. And then a year later, I was back and I opened it up and the business card was there. And I was like, damn it. But the book
Yeah.
for me was that sort of physical thing, I guess.
Hmm.
To see it on the shelf was nice. The fact that nobody bought it wasn't nice, but it is what it is.
I mean, you sold a lot of books, so.
Okay, so you start to gain this sort of passion for working with physical sort of electronics. So you had that both
Mhm.
that hands-on feel with all the software stuff. Um, are you able to do more of that in the engineering school? Since I feel like you went to a school that was more about chemistry than sort of electronics.
Actually, so the two first years were you could choose anything you wanted, and after you had to choose a major for the three last years. And it was a network of schools. So I was actually in Grenoble, but I could ask for another major in another city. But I ended up in the same city with the electronical and industrial computer science major. So for 3 years, I did that. Um, and the story is that I finally didn't like much electronic, but enjoyed more software and specialized at the end in image processing. So at the end, like I'm more focused on software.
That's fair. I mean, that's what university is all about, right? Finding your way in. So all the girls that went to university, number one, two, and three, they all started with one sort of major in mind. And
Mhm.
number one and three, their very last year, said, "Dad, I don't want to do this major anymore." Which was like, "Listen, you're like 3/4 of the way there. You need to finish this degree, and then you can do whatever you want in your master's," right? But and one of
Mhm.
them, number three, was going to be a teacher, like elementary school teacher, and she did an internship her last that third year and said, "Dad, I can't do this. I can't be in the classroom." I could just hear it in her voice. But I said to her again, "You better
Yeah.
ask somebody if you can finish this degree without being in a classroom because you're too close,"
Mhm.
which she did, right? And then number one started with journalism, got into criminal justice, and number two started not knowing and ended up being a nurse. But so the bottom line is that, like, I think that's what university is all about. In fact,
Mhm.
it's really odd for me to hear a story. Maybe I'm one of the few that started with the idea of computer science and running software and sort of stuck with
Yeah.
it. I mean, that's what university is about.
Hmm. Yeah, because when I chose, I was 17 years old, and today I see myself as a baby. Like I was just a child. How can you envisage a future? Like you don't know anything about the world. You don't know anything about like the fields, the jobs. Like it's so hard to choose. So, but I'm happy actually I ended up in this major. I had a chance again to do other internships that made me choose again like my different um, specialty. But it's what internships are for. So you can see in the real world what it looks like. So,
I love that, at least in France, you have those internship opportunities because they're not. At least when I went to school, I went to university in the late '80s, like '88, '89, '90, '91. Um, that was something that you had to get really lucky. Like it wasn't part of the sort of education. And my dad worked at Grumman Aerospace at the time, so I got 2 internships. Um, but that's because of my father. It wasn't because I was even being on the radar screen. Uh, and more stories I hear from people, the more
Mhm.
important I realize those internships were because they're also helping you shape. I guess it's the same thing with number 3 when she got into the classroom and finally experienced what her life was going to be and hit the panic button, right? Because what other,
Mhm.
I'm just kind of interested what other um, work you did in your internships that helped shape sort of your direction into pure software.
I did a second internship where I was converting troubleshooting procedure for helicopters into code. So I had like papers and I had to transfer them into code. And it's where I was like, I really enjoy actually doing code. And it was my first time where I was actually coding for something that was concrete, not at school. So this is where I decided to, um, I would say, move to more software than electronical stuff. Um,
Nice.
and then, like, also, yeah. So I was supposed to do an internship of 3 months, but I decided to go to New Zealand for a semester and we were
You can't
starting
just say that.
the
Wait. You can't just
sorry.
tell me, I decided to go to New Zealand.
So you have to do few weeks, like 2 months. I don't remember exactly, but like something like 2 months in a foreign country to validate your um, engineer graduation. Engineering graduation. It's
Really?
something that is required. So you yeah. So you are proving that you have an experience abroad, and like you're speaking English and everything. So I chose to go to New Zealand for a semester. I could have done an internship or a semester in another country, but I guess I wanted to go very far away at that point. But the program was
Mhm.
actually really interesting because I had the chance to do bioinformatics at that point. So that was actually really cool. And yeah, so I did my semester there, and it was starting in July. So I couldn't do my internship during the summer.
Oh, okay. So you didn't lose any sort of school time because you did it over the summer.
Yes, I actually do some time, but I mean, I was happy to go to New Zealand. That was my best experience when I was younger, I would say.
And then these are like paid internships, so you've got money to live and buy food and
It was not an internship there. It was I was at the uni, so I was studying, and I had help from the
oh.
government, and my mom worked hard also. So
I've
yeah,
been to New Jersey. Listen to me, New Jersey,
um,
New Zealand. I don't know where my head went just there. Where I was in Wellington. I wasn't in like the big city of Auckland. I was in Wellington, which it was so windy
yeah.
there. I thought that we were under a hurricane watch every day.
I've been
Where were
to
you?
Wellington,
Were
but it
you
was
like?
very sunny and very nice. No, I was studying in
Mm.
Dunedin. It's like the south, really the south of New Zealand. So I arrived in winter. It was really, really cold, but a really fun semester. So I didn't do this internship, but I did at the end a 6 month internship where I was doing again electronic and software. Um, because it was an opportunity that was given, so I was like, okay, let's do it. But then I did image processing. So I was like, okay, I know like now I'm gonna do image processing and software, leaving for good the electronical part.
Was your last internship sort of at university the plan for your first job, or you have to start looking for a new job as you finish?
Actually, with my semester abroad, I had to switch. So I did my 6 month internship and then I did my last semester of school. So I didn't do this internship of 3 months. So I had to do another semester to compensate so they could validate my degree. What they didn't say at the beginning when I did my semester abroad, actually. So basically, I finished school in January instead of September of the year before. But it was nice because again I chose image processing and it was really good.
So then you're graduating. It's a 4-year degree, so you're graduating in like 2015, or it takes an extra year with all the
No,
internships.
so I was supposed to finish in 2016 and I finally finished in 2017.
So that's like, see, I was not a fan of school. I couldn't get school done fast enough. Not that I was smart enough to get school done fast enough, but like you did an extra like 6 years of, well, it wasn't all university because you had internships. So maybe that makes it
Yeah.
easier because my internships would always be in the summer. That was like a summer thing. You didn't interrupt
Mhm.
your classes. So, um, but you've had this entire life up into 2017 of just school. I remember
Yeah.
every one of my girls, um, number one did her master's, which was 2 years, but all of them, when they finished that last bit of schooling, especially number three, she's like, I'm not getting my master's. Was so burnt out with school that they were just so relieved to be sort of done with it. I mean, did you feel
Hmm.
any of that going into like 17?
Yeah. I think it really depends on how you work and how much you have to work. Because I remember like students that didn't have to work so much and they could get like everything and good grades and everything. But I was not that type. I had to work very hard to get like correct grades. I remember sometimes like crying because I was so tired, but I had to work to finish like stuff or because I had exams coming and everything. But mental health is a real topic for students, I think, that I was not aware of at that time. So yeah, but I was very well supported by my family, my friends. So I was working as a team with people in my like classmates and helping each other. So I didn't feel alone at that time, which helped me a lot.
I just want to briefly talk about the mental health thing because I find it super interesting that at least when I was a kid growing up in the 70s and like the 80s, if you even mentioned like I'm burnt out, the answer was always just grow up and deal with it and
Hmm.
get it done, right? And I maybe at some level that was it just forced me at least to just like I'm not going to get any sympathy here, so either just buckle down and get it done, or I don't want to hear it.
Hmm.
But I saw with my kids, this whole generation of kids right now that had to finish high school during COVID.
Yeah.
Anybody right now that's 22 through sort of 19, they are so, and it's only the boys in my experience. I have a lot of girls and boys, right? All of the boys, I don't know what it is, and there's three of them right now in my life at that age, where um, I think it really took a mental toll on them to the point where not only do they not want to go to university, they don't even want to work. They don't want to do anything. And I
Hmm.
haven't allowed it. Okay, I just haven't allowed it, and it took them 2 years, I think, to get unburnt out. But I had to be really sort of hands off and let them. They had to work, but I didn't push them into trying to figure out their lives at that point.
Hmm.
And now I'm seeing a nephew going through it, but his parents and the people around him are beating him up a little bit about the fact that and I've tried to tell him, he's burnt out. You don't need to see a psychologist. He doesn't need this. He doesn't need that. He's just burnt out severely. And
Hmm.
I'm seeing it with these kids. I feel like if you look back, you probably have felt a little bit of the same thing at the time then. You're just sort of burnt out.
Yeah, sometimes definitely I was like calling again my mom, crying on the phone, like, I'm so exhausted, I cannot do it. Um, but when you have, when you know why you are doing it, you're gonna find the energy to do it. Um, Not if you're really sick, like burnout and sick, but like if you're just tired, you're gonna find some fuel at some time. But I have actually cousins, boys who are facing the same situation. So that's actually interesting. and they're in Algeria, so not the same country, not the same context. But that's actually interesting. I think that the new generation definitely needs more sense um, in their lives and why they're studying, and just understand themselves um, much more than the generation before. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
interesting.
and it's boys too, so that's super interesting to me.
Yeah,
And the only thing that worked was not putting pressure on them to have to go to university or figure out their life, and give them the 2 years. Again, they can't veg in a room. You got to go to work, even if you don't like it. I don't want to hear it.
yeah,
Um, but beyond going to work, um, just veg. So I'll be honest, yeah. Like lately, I have felt sort of burnt out. But for me, it's like I've got all these kids and family and responsibility, and I feel like sometimes I don't have a right to feel this way because I got to go to work tomorrow. I got to bring money in.
yeah.
I have to let it. I could take a day off, and sometimes I feel like just take 2 days off, and then I feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you doing? You can't just take 2 days off. Like, that's not right. It can become, it can, and now as you're a parent, right,
Yeah.
and you've got a child, this idea of I'm burnt out. I'm just going to take a couple of days off, which you do need to do. You start to feel guilt. I don't know. I start to feel guilty, even
That's
contemplating it.
interesting. Yeah, but I think guilt is part of parenthood, honestly. But I felt already burnout in my life, even when I was working, and even you're not taking days off. I think that you need a mental break, like support for someone, or doing some activities or anything that just gonna take you outside from this box you're into. um but yeah, I can understand that you have responsibility and you cannot take 2 days off, but maybe you can have a walk with your dog instead of, I don't know, watching a game and
Well,
just going outside from home.
I do that every day. At some point, at 4 o'clock, I'm already burnt out. I'm like, Max, let's go. We're gonna take a walk. Uh, I think what helps though is Allie, my wife, will sometimes just say, "Stop. Just sit and watch the dumb TV you want to watch. You have
Hmm.
permission. It's okay, right?"
Yeah.
And then I think sometimes somebody in your life giving you permission to do something can help you
Hmm. Yeah, and I
feel
guess
not as guilty.
Ali is great to like doing that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So you're done with university.
Yeah.
You have had these internships that have kind of led you to the idea of image processing and software development. Uh, you're back in France. So what's your next step? You got to get a job here. So,
Yeah.
and it's 2017. So it's not a bad time to find a job. 2017 was good.
Yeah, it was good. I was back at my parents' house and I was like, I really need to find a job and go.
Okay. You cannot go back to your parents' house after you've lived on your own
That's
for that
hard.
long. And the house feels smaller, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Did the
my
house
my
feel
room,
smaller?
my
Ah,
child, yeah, my child room. Yeah, that
yeah,
was
yeah,
really
yeah.
weird to be back there. But yeah, so I actually put my resume on website like Monster, I think, and like a bunch of companies, like contractor company. I don't know the word. I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Consulting,
Yeah,
contracting companies. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Were calling me, and I was having like for 3 weeks interviews. I don't know, 8 hours interview per day, like calling people,
Whoa.
having interview. Like I was just, it was a full job for 3 weeks until I signed my first
Wow.
contract. um, and I had this first opportunity as a contractor um, to work as a QA engineer for Airbus Defence and Space in the image processing on satellites. And that was actually really cool. I was actually happy to leave the house and have my first job, let's say it. But
Was that wasn't remote? You had to be in the office.
yeah, had to be in the office. It was where I live actually now, which is 1 hour and a half from my parents' house and near Cannes, like where there is the film festival.
Oh,
So yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Okay, so that was exciting.
Yeah, that was actually really cool at that time. I had my first flat. No, not my first. I had flatmates before, but like as a worker, as an
Yeah, yeah,
active,
yeah.
a young
Yeah, you're
active.
not in
So
school anymore. It's not a
yeah.
university thing anymore. This is like you've graduated to the next step of. So when I graduated university and I got my first job, my dad said, um, "Welcome, you're going to now work for the rest of your life."
Yeah,
Right? Right? And I'm
definitely.
like 22 years old, and he just says, "Welcome, you're now going to work for the rest of your life." And I'm like, "Dad, I just finished school, right? That's all I know." And here I am, 55, going, "Damn it, Dad, I still have that in my head." Like,
uh,
I don't know if he was being like, he's trying to be joking, but at the same time, I always felt like it was mean. Like, why are you saying that? But there it is. You're having that same sort of. It's the first day of the rest of my life working.
mm, definitely. But I was happy. I was very excited to work actually and be confronted to the real life and contribute to something. Actually, put all this knowledge that I got for so many years and do something with it. You know. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
So how
but
long were you at that job?
a few months actually. 10 month I think the total was, because I was kind of bored, I would say, after a few months, because I was actually testing and doing the qualification of the imaging of a software that was doing the processing. And I was like, I don't know, I wanted to build it, not to test it. I was
Sure. Yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah.
tests, so I was writing automatic tests. I was actually deploying for the first time my platform with GCP and Kubernetes, like all the cool stuff. But it was not enough at that time. I was like, I didn't do all this stuff to do only that. So I asked to move to the dev team, and one of them was actually leaving. So I had the chance to replace him. And it's how I started to be a Go developer.
So you stayed at the company. You were able to switch roles, and they
Yeah.
saw enough in you to
Yeah.
give you the chance to be on the dev team. That's wonderful.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
They,
That was really a great opportunity. And the team was amazing. People were amazing there. That was the best team ever I had. And I learned so much there from people. So,
I get nervous with the QA jobs because if it's the wrong company, you're treated like you're second class
yes.
sort of tech citizen, and you never get an opportunity to. So the moment you said it was a QA job, I held my breath because I'm like, I hope it's the right company. When I
Hmm.
ran teams, QA to me was so important. I would make every developer that I hired work in QA for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
That was their
That's
first 2 weeks,
that's nice. Yeah. um, because you're not building the software, you don't have some knowledge that developer have, so they are not considering you as the same level because you
right?
are only testing. And it is something that I observed even years after when other QA engineers took those roles. um, so yeah, this is something that I saw, but at that time I didn't realize it really. um, Only once or twice maybe I had some remarks, but it was not like something very common and very open. um, and I had a lot of respect for QA engineer when I was a developer, and even though now. So, but the job was not really interesting for me at that point. So that's why I asked for a switch. Otherwise I think I would have left and I or at least look for a new job.
Well, it's better too, since you had the engineering background and now you have the product background because you've been testing it. I mean, who better has a mental model
Yeah.
of the software? So, like logically, it makes complete sense to pull you in there.
Yeah.
Um, how long were you then a dev on that project?
I think 4 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
were essentially there for from
Most
like
of my
2017 to 22,
Yeah, to 2021 actually. So yeah,
21.
yeah,
Okay. Um,
yeah.
what makes you decide to leave that, because 4 years is good. Well, let's say 5 years is really good. Like, that's I mean, even let me just try to say it this way as I stumble through my words. Most people today only give a company a year. If you're lucky, maybe 2. And there's nothing wrong with that, honestly. If you find something new that you wanna do, or you should move. In other words, is what I'm saying. It used to be the rule that you have to give a company 2 years or it looks bad on your resume. I don't believe in that anymore. But giving a company that long meant to me that you were really enjoying your work.
Yeah, actually, I had to leave. So that was a bit sad, um, because I was a contractor and the financial situation was not good. They let me go. I don't know, like they fired me, but because I was a contractor, I was still a contractor for the company where I was an employee, and this was the time where I was okay. I don't want to be a contractor anymore because I want more security and at least job security and be able to choose what I want to do and not have projects that are I'm just pushed in, or even though it was not the case at that moment because I had the chance to stay a long time in this project, like I didn't want this to happen to me. So
Yeah, I forgot you were a contractor. For a company
yeah.
to have a client and somebody there for 5 years is like it's a dream come true, right? Like,
Mm,
even as a contractor, you tend to get maybe 2 years, and then companies are making different decisions. So,
yeah,
but being there so long, my brain forgot you're a contractor. I thought you
that's fine.
my brain was going into full-time employment there. They wouldn't be willing to hire you, or I guess they couldn't. There was no deal there.
um there were some job openings at some point, yeah, but I actually didn't apply at that time. I think I was young and I didn't really know what I was doing and understanding exactly, the code of the jobs with between contractors and clients. It took me some years to
Right.
understand all this business.
Sure.
So yeah, and yeah, I when I wanted to actually be an employee there, the didn't open the job because again financial situation was not good at all. So I mean I'm happy I finally didn't get there, so that's
Right,
okay.
right. Well, things happen for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Even you don't know it in the middle of it. But now you have to find another job. You've got great experience. You've shown loyalty to a company. So, what's your next step? You gonna jump on Monster again, or is Monster even
No.
still around by then? I don't even know.
Yeah, I applied to a lot of jobs. I had many opportunities. I was getting better at interviews also. But I met my husband. So I was like, I cannot really leave. And I was still a bit young, I think, and immature for full remote job. Actually, one company didn't want to go further because they thought actually that I was too junior for a remote role. So I finally had a job at Thales Alenia Space, still in the aerospatial world. Um, and I was a Java backend engineer working for a ground control software, which was very interesting. But doing Java was an experience, I would say, because in my professional um, background, I did only Go and some Bash, you know, and I was like, okay, it's an experience to see if I really like Go, what are the differences, doing really object oriented also language, but yeah, so I did that for a year,
So
and
this is what I think, Don. If your husband ever says that he questions your love, you just say, "I became a Java developer for you."
yeah, sadly,
That's it. Book
yeah,
closed. Wow. Was your husband um, also a software developer or engineer?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. not Java engineer, but yeah.
But he didn't work at the same company, did he? You met him.
I met him during my first experience at Airbus.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a bunch of opportunities. You're not exper they're telling you you're not experienced enough to do 100% remote. You've decided you're staying in this relationship, so you're going to stay in town. You got to find a local company. And this is the company you find that requires you to write Java. Even though you had no Java experience, they still decide to hire you to
Yes,
work on
because
this.
actually I understood better what is the network and how to use it. So one of the architects that was working at Airbus was actually working there, and I can say it, he pushed my resume, saying that he referenced me. We'll say that more politely.
How long
So
did it take you to find that job? Was it like 4 to 8 weeks from the time you started?
no, it took much more because these huge companies, as we said at the beginning, it takes forever. So I did a bunch of interviews in the middle, had opportunities. Actually, I accepted a contract in Berlin that I finally canceled. So I was like, maybe I can do like 1 month there and come back for 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah, I finally choose my personal life, I would say, over work. And I don't regret it because it was a great experience at Thales. I learned a lot about aerospatial again and about Java and why I love Go today. So that was good for that. And also, I was they hired me because I had experience in microservices and cloud. So they wanted to improve their platform and do a migration because it was kind of old school, I would say. So I actually brought things with me, but at the same time, they were very, I call them the dinosaurs, because everything was so old and even people were old. Sorry to say that, but like even in their mindset, they were like in the old time. And I was doing so much like new stuff before and using new technologies and trendy stuff that it was kind of hard. Also, I've been working with Scrum and Agility, so I wrote some processes there to bring fresh air.
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, I improved the lifestyle of the dev team and the way of the processes were done, the management part, how they were actually interacting with the developer directly, and everything was so messed up. So I wrote some stuff, but and I learned too. So that was good. But I was approached by a recruiter on LinkedIn, and it was appealing. So I decided to leave after a year.
And where did you go?
I
Who was
went
that?
to a startup, uh, which is called Powder. It's really small, it's French, and they are still alive, and they are doing kind of Instagram but for gamers using AI. And so basically, gamers are playing on Twitch, streaming, and all the recordings are eaten by AI processed, and then you have clips with the strongest part. And like, for example, if you have a goal, or if you're crying, or anything that is emotional, or something in the game is detected, and then you have little clips that you can post on the platform.
And that was
So
all you back to coding and Go at that point or
yeah, I
changing?
was back to
Okay.
Go. Yeah, I was back to Go, and I was not doing the AI part. I was building the backend, and that was my first time that I was building backend for mobile. So that was really cool because I could test like directly what I was doing. Remember, I was doing aerospatial before, so before you code is testing, it can take years before the satellite is actually on orbit. So like I never saw my software in production. So that was my first time. I was like pushing in production, I don't know, 2 to 3 times a week. So I was like
It's
so excited.
exciting, right?
Oh, that
Yeah,
was
but your stomach hurts all day too because you're waiting for it to crash, right?
yeah, but I
Especially
mean it's
the
part of the game.
it is, but that first sort of like half an hour after you push something new is like the scariest. Just waiting.
uh, It's
That's
become
good.
less and less, I guess, scary. But yeah.
I don't know about that. That's never left me. Anytime I push, I'm just waiting. No matter how much I test it, I'm still just waiting.
I mean, it depends. Like for a mobile app with gamers, it was okay. Like we were trying to find a market fit and everything. Like on Cilium, I'm stressed out when I merge a PR. Even there are like a lot of tests. So yeah,
Okay, so this is like 22. You find
yeah.
this company. How long are you with this company for?
For a year again, like
Okay.
you're jumping again. Yeah.
But that
Um.
I think that's fair today. I think it's almost
Actually, I
it's
wish I stayed much longer there. Um. I think I was seeing myself like 2 years there at the beginning. But you probably know that in 2023, the startups market was, and is still very hard. Like investors just stopped investing. And I knew that it was going to be like they're going to lay off people and everything. We were seeing that the situation was bad. So I applied for 3 companies.
so you were proactive
Yeah,
before it all sort
yeah,
of went down. You
yeah,
saw
yeah.
the writing on the wall. That was good.
Yeah, and it happened after. So, but yeah, and I had 3 opportunities, 3 great opportunities, and I had my dream role, which is today at Isovalent. I really wanted to go to Isovalent. I actually applied um, when I applied for for Thales Alenia Space 2 years ago, and I didn't. Okay, my interviews were catastrophic. I was so bad. Yeah. So they didn't take me, obviously. And they were looking for more senior people also. So anyway. But this time they saw in me a potential, I guess. And I was better. I had the same interviewer who is my mentor at Isovalent now. And he saw that I really progressed. So that was part of why the
I'm glad you tried again instead of feeling like they already said no to me, so I'm not gonna. What made you decide, even though you were told no a couple years ago, you really wanted to work for this company?
yeah, I really wanted because I wanted to work for open source project. That was one of my goal, um, and I found it very valuable to work for something that is used by many people and that is actually open, which came from the fact that I was working for users on mobile app and seeing like the feedback from people like on the way. So that's why I think I really wanted to work for open source and also trying to go in the middle.
Mm.
So I really discovered open source world and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do now.
All right. I want to talk about how, because that's kind of where you are now, and that you love where you're working, even though it's now Cisco. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next sort of year or two. But we met at a Go conference where you were giving a really cool talk, and I kind of want to understand the what year and the origin of that. Is that from the time that you're where you are now, or a little bit before? Talk a little bit about how that talk and how you
How,
get on stage all happens.
so I think it was the end of 2021 and I was wondering at that time what I wanted to do. And I was like, I really want to contribute more to the community and do more stuff. And I felt more confident with my goal level also. Like I was not so much a junior in the middle, intermediate. So I found so different things happen at the same time. So I started writing my first articles on Medium. In parallel, I applied to open a Google developer group chapter in my area so I could build a community. And I applied for Women Developer Academy, a program from Google for women in tech, to help them to promote themselves and actually to give talks.
Where
So,
does this come from? Hold on a second, because
yeah.
I've listened to a lot of your story, and you've never done any of this type of work. It hasn't even shown up, at least in our conversation. So,
Mhm.
where does the thought of wanting to do all this community stuff suddenly come from?
Okay. So I'm someone that is very into people. I love talking with them, organize stuff. So when I was actually at school, I was responsible for my promotion, organizing restaurants and parties and stuff for everyone. Um, when I started working for this contractor company, I was the responsible of the people from this company in the client place. So I was again organizing parties and restaurant, escape games and stuff. So I've always been organizing stuff for people, and I love that. So when I realized that I could combine tech and organizing events, I was like, okay, actually I can build a community and organize events for that. So it can be more useful, I would say, than just restaurants, you know. So that's how it started. And when looking for communities, I realized that there is this Google developer group. So I was like, maybe it's a good way to have to not start from zero, because you have a platform, you have people there, you can have support, sponsoring, and everything, network. So I could start building this community with people behind. So that's how this part started. Um, and the articles, I was like, I really want to share what I'm learning. And my first article is how to ace the interviews marathon. So after passing all these interviews, I tried to summarize what I learned and my best advice to people how to pass them. And then just writing some articles sometimes, not much, because I'm not so much into writing at the end, I think. It's not what I'm better at. But so yeah, and the Women Developer Academy program, I just landed it by going on the Google platform, just looking for events and this Google developer group and everything, and I found it just like that. So I was like, okay, that's actually really cool. That could help me to do more stuff and meet other women. So that's how it started for the talks. Um, so at the end of this program, it was like 1 month, twice a week, 1 to 2 hours of talks and workshops, working together with women. And at the end, we had to find a topic and make a presentation of 5 minutes. And we were talking with my husband about our hen house, and we found out about TinyGo, and I was like, with him, like ending up, we could monitor our hen house with TinyGo. That could be a fun project. So he has the same background as me. He's an electronical and computer science engineer. So that was actually fun. And I started my first talk about TinyGo, just TinyGo, like an introduction to TinyGo, for the women tech makers of Berlin. It was online, and then I applied with a CFP to all the GoFoCon, and I got accepted to all the GoFoCon. And I was
Nice.
like, okay, I know that is something very rare today. So I was actually very excited about it, and I gave my talk 3 times in a row, and we met for the first time in Berlin.
Yeah, it was a great talk. And it was really relevant at the time. It was sort of this perfect mix of everything coming together for you at the right time.
Yeah,
Yeah, really amazing.
I
Are you
remember
still
that. Yeah, sorry.
No, no, go on, go on, go on. Finish your thought.
I remember when I finished my talk, you came and you said that was one of the best talk that I ever heard of. And I was like, oh my god, like Bill Kennedy is saying that. That was
I still
amazing.
believe it today. It was it's hard. This is what I say to a lot of people. If you're giving a talk for the first time, or you have somebody coming to your sort of group for the first time, don't give them more than 20 minutes, because
Hmm.
if the talk is horrendous and horrific, everybody can sit through 20 minutes of that.
Yeah.
Anything more, you start to really want to pull your hair out. It's really rare to find it. I'm just going to say it's incredibly rare to find a talk today that you feel engaged the entire time, whether it's
Mm,
20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, where the time just flies by. And your talk was that for me, which is, I mean, I go to a lot of conferences. I sit through a lot of talks. I have to sit in the front row, so it forces me um, to
yeah.
have to pay attention, right? Um, and that talk just went by so fast. It was, that's kind of the way I was measuring it. Um, and again, it was relevant. Are you still using that tech in your hen house at all? Did you ever kind of
Sadly,
no?
no, because our hands are not there anymore.
Oh, the fox got to them.
Yes.
uh,
Yes, finally. Yeah. So, not a long time ago, actually, like 2 months ago. So, that's, yeah. But I'm
well,
planning to, when we will be finishing our home house renovation, to have a hen house again and our new chickens. And I really want to monitor it properly with an app and everything. So it's in the backlog. And
well,
I hope I will give a talk like the V2 of the hen house.
yeah, yeah, yeah. With all the super cool detection and
Yeah.
all the gadgets that go after I live in Miami. Okay, so it's not like the farm, but there are chickens and roosters walking all over the place all the time
Yeah.
around here. Yeah, there's a whole family now just down the street making noise all the time. Luckily, the dog doesn't care about it. So if you need a starter chicken, I got a few of them. Those chickens are aggressive. I had one living in an old house that just showed up, and 3 days it was aggressive. Like wanted attention, wanted food. Wouldn't I had to
Hmm.
call a nursery next door to come and get it.
Really? Okay.
Oh my
Ne-
god, I don't know.
yeah, and our hands were pretty okay. Not aggressive at all. I
Maybe these
mean,
are
looking for food,
U.S.
but yeah.
No, just walk around and yell at you until you like gave it what it wanted, kind of thing. Almost like a dog. I never seen
Yeah.
anything like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it wasn't for my first wife at the time, I would have just plucked it and ate it. I was at that level.
Yes.
I was threatening it, and then it didn't care. So you're not going to touch
Mm,
me.
that's a bit dumb. Let's be honest. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now that you're a new mother, I guess you don't have a lot of time for that sort of stuff anymore, right? Are you still
Yeah.
doing? Are you at least showing up to any of these sort of tech things that you sort of started, or you just really
Mm.
don't have any more time at all?
Um so I have less time, definitely. I've been organizing tech events since February. But I mean, these last 2 months were hectic, so I couldn't. But I'm planning to come back in September with my team and organize events again. We organize one conference per year, a little conference, like with 70 people. So, but I'm planning to do it. And I'm giving a talk in a week at GopherCon US. And it's
You
not
coming
ready
alone?
yet.
Are you
No,
coming alone, or are you coming with the family?
I'm coming with the family.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, yeah. It's not ready at all, but it will be.
What is the talk about?
It's about building glamorous CLI using Charm CLI.
Okay, cool. Cool. I
Yeah.
didn't know you got to talk there. That's awesome.
Yeah. I actually I applied like I was still in maternity leave. I did my CFP really quickly and I was like, I'm never gonna be accepted.
Boom.
Yeah. It was actually refused at GoFocon EU. I applied for GoFocon EU. So um yeah. But something that I didn't mention is that I have very good friends that are who are helping me a lot in that processes. To- Especially Pascal and Aliénor, who are the writers of the book that we're currently writing through Teach Go. Um, but they helped me a lot because they heard my talks a lot. I'm rehearsing with them. They are giving me advices. They're very good in English also because I'm not a good speaker, so I need some help to just find right words, um, the right content, the right diagrams, and they are very neat. So they help me to deliver the best talk. So we are a
Yeah, it's
team
good to have
here.
help. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've met your friends there. They're
Yeah.
awesome people. So it's nice to have that too, especially since all of you are sort of participating in this, writing books and talks and stuff. To have that team and to have almost one voice, because it even helps with these sorts of projects. To have the biggest problem with a book, I probably even said this to you, with more than one person writing, is everybody has their own voice. So you start to be able to identify who wrote what chapter because the voice changes. Um, but with all the work that the three of you do together, I feel like you're going to have that one voice, which is really nice to have that help.
We try. Um, I mean, when I'm writing, most of the time they're going after me and fixing stuff.
Sure,
but
but that's the process, whether it's
yeah,
code or all of
yeah.
that. That's brilliant. Okay, we are out of time here. Believe it or not, an hour and a half has gone by. It's always like that. It's wild. Um, and even though we've met a few times and have gone out and had a meal, I didn't even know all of this background. So this was super super interesting, at least for me, to kind of hear where you came from and your journey. So I really appreciate that, sharing that with us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I feel very honored to be there. I'm listening a lot to the Ardan podcast, so I know there are great people before me. So I'm very happy to be here and always happy to chat with you.
Well, I think your story's going to really help a lot of people. The idea that you really, after maybe a decade of experience between university and work, decided that was finally your time to share what you're learning. And I feel like the moment somebody's willing to start sharing, it opens up a whole nother set of doors. And that opened up even more opportunity for you, right? People call it building a brand. And I kind of like to think of it more as your opportunity to kind of give back with all the people that
Mhm.
sort of helped you. And it will always come back to help you if you're doing it for the right reasons, which obviously, from what we heard today, you are. So I'm really excited. And I'm glad that even though you're now a mother and that's a full time job on top of a full time job, um, you're not pulling too far back on the community stuff. I don't want you to do that. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, trying to find a balance at that time, honestly. So, um, but I think that with kids, you have to find always a balance. Like every day is being able to find a balance. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. You'll get. You have a wonderful husband too, so you got the
Yes.
right support system there. So I think
Yes.
that will help. Okay. If anybody wants to say hi to you or has a question after listening to the show, we'll put this in the show notes. What's the best way for somebody to reach out?
I'm active on LinkedIn and Twitter, so they can they can contact me there. Definitely.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Thank you for hanging out with us. This is the Arden Labs podcast. Bill Kennedy and Donia signing off and hoping to see everybody again real soon.